All right, good day and good evening to anybody listening, depending on the time of day you're at. But I'm going to say good day because it is, for my time, 2:30 in the afternoon here on the East Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing you somebody on the West Coast, so we're having fun. My last podcast, literally 20 minutes ago, was same state, which is very rare here in Pennsylvania, here in Allentown, an hour north of Philadelphia. But hey, welcome back to another Live the Fuel show, ladies and gentlemen. Today, on this episode, we are streaming live as we always do on Facebook. We're going to be digging into some money. And for anybody who's listened to the show for a while, you know that I sucked at it. And I've been climbing my way out of my suckiness. And I can thank my wife and the influence from her family. So I'll give her a shout out to Dr. Kristen Fenstemacher, my lovely wife of barely over a year. But hey, let's talk about my guest co-host today. Because money's important. Business, lifestyle, relieving stress. Even if you don't have your own business, succeeding in your career. But I'm going to go back to stress and creating some freedom and maybe strike a little bit on the nerve. There's your little key word, ladies and gentlemen, because I've got the author of The Money Nerve today. So he's a financial expert. He's a motivator. He does trainings based on this book. It's been out for about 3-4 years. I'll have him clarify that and a whole lot more. So without further ado, Bob Wheeler, sir, from LA, welcome.
Hey, Scott. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for freeing up your Saturday. So, you know.
Well, hey, we're in lockdown and pandemic and curfew, so I had nothing else going on.
That's right. Yeah, you guys got the curfew thing right now, too. I'm so sorry to see all that happening. I mean, I'm an hour north of Philadelphia, and these are wild times.
These are wild times.
Yeah. And, you know, let's pause on that. I do want to reflect because while we're recording, I mean, this might not air for a month or two, but, you know, obviously, quarantine for 2020. We have a lot of stuff happening with Black Lives Matter right now in 2020. A lot of energy, a lot of positive versus negative ways to represent it. I have a lot of colleagues, fellow podcasters, influencers who are big influencers in the Black Lives Matter movement and amazing men and women. And I've been watching and paying attention to their social media feeds. It's just wild times. I'm lucky that where I live here in Allentown, the next 2 cities over, they had very peaceful marches, you know, presentations, speakings. Nothing violent has happened here. So this is streaming live on Facebook. Thank you for all those who may watch this or see this. Thank you for choosing a more positive way to help alleviate some of this. But let's tie all that energy back to you because you're coming on my show today. And I actually, because of these times, it's more important than ever to talk about money awareness, money knowledge, money intelligence. And for me, I'm interested on The Money Nerve, your brand of the book, you know, navigating the emotions of money. I'm going to set the stage for you. I sucked at it, as I said.
Yeah.
I was always centered around a scarcity mindset. And I think a lot of us do. My wife grew up with no debt. I always kind of played the debt game, always did. I still have some left. I'm wiping it out, but she's never carried debt. But here's the thing. Her father's a former multi-CFO, you know, accountant, like you're an accountant, like you guys get it. You know, this is why I pay an accountant. Like I just got my bill. I'm paying a lot of money for an accountant that I never used to pay years ago, but now I have a foundation. I have my business. Now that my wife and I are married, this is our first year switching into joint filing.
Uh-oh.
Right? It's like, holy crap. Like there's a lot of stuff happening. It's, you know, and I said, you know what? Hire the experts. But to rewind back to the stress, the emotion, I always lived with scarcity. I didn't understand money. And I've had a lot of influencers on this show like yourself who bring a different way to educate on it. Why? I guess it's okay to let the emotions flow a little bit. Can you talk to that?
Well, absolutely. I think a lot of people, when they deal with money, think it's very black and white, right? It's very simple. 2 + 2 is 4. That's it. But what a lot of people don't understand is unconsciously we're making a lot of decisions emotionally. Oh, if I buy this, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be able to impress my friends. I can show that I'm successful. And whether it's guilt, shame, pleasure, whatever those things are, if we don't at least start to be aware that, oh, I get triggered when certain things happen, when we have to split the bill at a restaurant with our friends, and I didn't get the wine and I'm paying half of it.
Ooh, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Or you sneak off to the bathroom, so maybe they won't make you pay your share.
Been a few
Like,
years. I think I did that once.
right? That all comes into play.
Yeah.
Or when you're standing in the grocery store and you're counting the number of items the person in front of you has, like, right, I'm not paying attention, but wait, it says 10 items or less. And I'm watching the person like break the rules. And
Interesting.
right. So we're, at least I count everybody in the line when it says 10 items or
Sometimes,
less.
if you see somebody rolling with a full cart, I'm sorry, that's a little frustrating. Yeah.
I'm judging them. Right. And so the thing is, the more we can become aware that we're making these emotional reactions, you know, when we bounce a check or we see debt, and we get that in our stomach or in our chest,
There is
or
a
when
gut.
we,
For me,
it's in the gut.
there was always that gut. Yeah.
Right. But when you win the lottery, woo, we feel excitement. So
Right.
it's starting to be aware of the impact that it has on our body, which has an impact on our health. And right now, I think a lot of people, at least I know a lot of my clients, they're entrepreneurs, they've got their own businesses, and they've been living check to check, right? Oh, I'm going to live off my next project. And I think this is,
I've been there. I've been slowly climbing out of that. So you and I are going to vibe today. You know,
yeah.
I don't hide anything, by the way, as you can tell. Like, I don't care, because if people can learn from my mistakes as I've learned from them, then great, right? Let's be real. So,
Well, that's the thing. And what I said to you offline earlier is a lot of clients will say to me, you must think I'm really bad. You must really be judging me. And I say to them, listen, I'm only able to talk to you about this stuff because I've actually made the same mistakes. I didn't do it perfectly. I didn't get a financial download from my parents. They were not good with money. Sorry, mom and dad. And they just weren't. And it's not their fault because nobody taught them. And so
same way. My brother and I, my younger brother and I, have talked about this. We have, especially as we're aging. You know, I love my family. I love my parents, but they don't have an exit strategy, right? So my dad's 72, still running his business. I mean, old school blue collar. You know, it's like. And it's not what's blue collar or white collar. Let's be real about that, right? Yellow collar, brown. I don't care. The point is, like, he had to have a game plan, and his father. I don't think his father ever taught him a game plan, and he just straps the boots on, goes to work, and if it's
does his thing,
whatever. So,
and the thing for me is, when I talk about like financial freedom, or when I talk about abundance, I'm not talking about I've got to have $10 million in my bank account. I'm talking about, am I able to live within my means? Am I actually making choices that serve my life choices, my values, my priorities? Am I spending time with family, or am I traveling? What are the things that are actually making me feel good and excited about being alive? And then doing it within a means so that I'm not getting anxious, so I'm not freaking out, that I'm not trying to compete with my neighbors or people at work so they can be impressed with me, but am I actually feeling good enough about myself and being okay with.
I like what you say, impressing your people you work with, right? So I'll be truthful. And when my wife and I were first dating, she actually asked me to stop saying this statement because it was annoying her, but like, always used to say, oh, like I was keeping up with the Joneses. Remember that?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And I remember I was working for T-Mobile. It's a big corporation, you know, big cellular company. And I worked my way up from a guy answering phones in the call center, no college degree. I was trying to take college classes in my free time and stuff, but I worked my way up into management and then a corporate analyst. I was traveling out to Seattle back and forth every quarter. It was like, so I was with no degree. I was making 60 to 70 grand a year. So I felt the need that, there's this cool old like silk mill loft complex. You know, I went to a party and I'm like, I want to live there. People are successful. They live there. And I started making these decisions based on nothing really about me. I realized I was thinking about everybody else. So it's interesting to how we make these decisions. And it's like, is that the best for me? At the time, I thought it was, you know, but was it? So.
Well, absolutely. And I think a lot of us also make decisions when we're 5 and 6 years old. Something happens when we're a kid, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, this is a decision I'm going to make for life, without really all the facts. And as a 5-year-old, probably shouldn't be making life decisions. But a lot of us, as we get older, are still operating from the 5 or 6-year-old, thinking that that was the truth instead of just a story we created.
Well, because our prefrontal cortex hasn't been developed yet, right? I forget when's that stop, around 9, 10, or whatever that stops. But there's so much influence happening then. So if we're constantly observing or being surrounded by that emotional energy, and I remember this, like my father always made sure he had a roof over our head. We were always fed. but there was times where we were living in apartments, or owning a house, not owning a house, renting here, renting there. We moved around a lot
Yeah.
because he moved to keep his business alive,
Right.
and I respect that. So, but I think some of that stuff might have gotten ingrained into me. And since I didn't understand the value of not necessarily saving, a lot of people go right for the saving thing. I'm like, I'm not a huge saver. But
Right.
right now, I'm actually getting more into making my money work for me. And
Right.
but it's taken me years to get to where I'm at now. And I'm still sitting like Sunday dinners at my in-laws. I'll sit there and just listen. I listen to her father and her brother, who are very financially successful. Like, okay, well, wonder if that could work. Let me try that. I'm always trying to learn now. Whereas before, I never would have cared. The wall was up. They're from a different world. I'm from a different world. They don't know me. I was literally thinking these things when I was first dating my wife. I was such a jackass.
Right. Well, and the funny thing is, we don't even check that stuff out, right? We don't even ask them, hey, are we from different worlds? Or can I learn from you? Or like, we just make the decision, I'm not of their world. It's not I can't learn it. It's everybody else gets to have success except me. Right. And then we don't actually check things out. Hey, maybe I can learn something, or, hey, maybe I can ask somebody for help.
Or how about the muscling it through it, right?
Yeah.
I don't need anybody's help. I'll figure this out. If they can figure it out, I can figure it out.
I'll do it on my own. I'll figure it out.
I'm laughing because that's me. I've been there. I now coach businesses not to do things like this, not in the financial world, but other ways. And I'm like, you got to listen to your own advice in these other areas of your life that you're weak at, because the money game, I call it a game, but the money game is important, right, Bob? I mean, especially now, like everybody's on. Granted, the government stepped in and helped with some PPP stuff. I got a little one, but I took all that money, and even though I'm not allowed to reinvest it in my business, I have to pay it myself. I'll find a way around that. I have no problem behind that. I was like, whatever. If it is my business, so fine. I will pay myself, and then the money I normally would pay myself, I'm reinvesting in my business.
Right. Exactly. It's all a game, and as long as you play the game properly, then you can make it work for you. But I think, for me right now, I look at all that's going on as maybe a silver lining, as some, like, there's some good things to come from this. It's a chance to reflect. It's a chance to actually look at, what am I spending my money on? And I think for a lot of people, they're finding, oh, I actually can live on a whole lot less. Didn't realize that, because I thought I had to have all these things.
Amazon. Look at how many less Starbucks you were buying. Look at how many less. If you don't have any business, like I usually travel 3 days out of the week. I haven't been traveling, so it's been a nice shift. So I've taken that allotment and allocated that money elsewhere. Have you ever heard of, I mean, obviously you being an author, you ever heard of Michael McAllowitz, the founder of Profit First?
I have to admit, I have not, but
he's got like 4 books out there.
Okay.
He's from New Jersey, but I use his methodology because my accountant doesn't understand it.
Right.
Because his concept is based on, remember the old grandma method, or what they called the grandma, great grandma, like they had envelopes. They would, okay, this is your food fund. So that's kind of his concept, except his concept, because his first successful book was called Profit First, was one of those accounts needs to be your profits account, especially as an entrepreneur, because if you never pay yourself profits and you're always just writing everything off as an expense, blah, 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 blah.
That's right.
Where's the reward in growing a business?
Right. You're just,
and I never thought about that. And even if it's just 3 to 4% or whatever that is, right? That all goes into a separate account in a separate bank that I can't touch until the end of the quarter. And I give myself a dividend, or and per his book, I have to spend all of those profits on non-business activities to reward yourself while you're doing everything you do. So it's a very interesting concept. But thanks to that, I never set aside money for automotive things, right? Like I drive a lot. I travel to upstate New York on business and stuff, and I have my own vehicle for that. So it's like, wait a minute, why am I always chasing or charging the car repairs and then paying for it next month? Like right now, I got almost 10 grand sitting in that account. Yeah. So when this car dies, I'll already have all the money to go buy another car outright. Right. I've never been able to do that. Never in my life. How many people just finance things or lease it or whatever? So
now, do you find that when you started getting a little more money, now that you're at 10,000, you'd like to keep seeing it at least stay at that or get a little bit bigger?
Yeah, a little bit. What's up with that?
I mean, well, for me, like once we start to get in the habit of putting some money aside or saving it or creating that safety net, for me, I know that then I start to go, I can do this. Oh, wow. I've got more money than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I created like 6 different bank accounts and just transferred money every week to each one of them, $100, $50. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I've got like $40,000.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
But they're all allocated to certain things, right? Like
they're all just,
I have a tax account.
Yeah.
Never had that. Like when I became an entrepreneur, I didn't know, like my wife was already an entrepreneur when I was dating. I didn't ask her. Like,
right.
I just waited until the end of the year. Classic mistake. I wasn't doing quarterly
payments.
Not everybody has to make quarterly estimate payments, but I do.
Right.
And I was like, holy crap, what have I done?
Right. Yeah.
That's a big bill to swallow. How many entrepreneurs you work with have done that?
Yeah, a lot. It's fun. I used to work with a CPA who would talk to his clients and he'd go, oh, by the way, tomorrow you need to put $200,000 in your bank account, or by Friday. And then you hear the client have a heart attack and die. Right. Yeah. And I'd say, why did you do that? And he goes, well, no, I told them to put money aside. I'm like,
did you?
Nobody's listening. No. You have to be engaged in conscious conversation. And so with my clients, I start these conversations much earlier and I stay on them, because then when we get to the end of the year, we're not having this, oh God, not in a good way.
It was hard in the beginning because I was like, wait a minute, you want me to, or I was making myself do it because my accountant didn't ask me to do that. I mean, the tax thing, yes, but the profit first methodology, or the multiple accounts like you've done, there's lots of different people do that. They have a different title for it, but I didn't realize, my scarcity mindset kicked in. I'm like, wait a minute, if I take this percent and this percent and stick it all here and I'm not allowed to touch it, I only have this much. And he's like, well, that's the point.
Right.
He said, if you can't run your business that way, then maybe you want to look at your expenses, because a lot of businesses just justify everything as a write-off. It's a write-off. It's a write-off. And they don't care what the expenses are. He's like, no. The whole point here is to give you an operational budget. I have an operational account. So all of my gross income goes into the operational account. And then I set aside the taxes because I have everybody on a monthly retainer. So at the beginning of the month, all the income hits. And then I immediately do the transfers. I have a tax account, automotive account. I have an educational account for conferences and educational programs, things like that. It's good to keep growing. I have the profit first account. I even have it started off as a giving account, but then since I launched my own nonprofit last year, now that percentage goes right into the nonprofit. I have a separate 501c3 account set up for that foundation. Great. So now I'm literally I'm able to fund my own foundation,
which is awesome.
I never would have thought about this stuff years ago. Because in the beginning I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to set aside money and not touch it.
Well, that's, it's interesting. I mean, I certainly like to figure out if I can write off my auto expense, right? And expense it, but I'm not in terms of like, oh, that's going to be a write-off. I have clients that'll say, oh, I just lost $50,000 on my stock, but it's great. It's a write-off. And I'm like, what? You just lost $50,000. It's great that you're going to get a benefit, but it would have been actually better if you'd actually made a profit.
Yeah. What's your thought on that? On that point, a great stock guru guy talked to me. He's like, Scott, here's a big tip in success if you're going to get into investing. Like what? He's like, as soon as you invest that money, he's like, it's gone. You lost.
That's
it.
right.
I'm like,
That's
what
right.
do you mean? He's like, people think that, oh, you put it in the market and then they freak out if it loses or it's going down. He's like, no, you have to get into the mindset of when you take that cash and it's no longer cash and you stick it into an investment, you have to automatically accept it's gone. I can never get that back forever. Granted, if it grows and successful, wonderful. But he's like, that is no longer cash in your hands. And I was like, I never thought about it that way. So
yeah, I absolutely agree. I was fortunate. My brother-in-law, when I was younger, said, look, investing's great, but any money you put in there, it's gambling. So only put in the amount of money that you're willing to lose and call it a day.
That's how he said it too. Yes.
And
you got to invest what you're prepared to lose.
Yeah. And if it's 10,000, great. It's 10,000. If it's 50,000, 100,000. And that's when I go to Vegas, it's the same thing. This week, I'm willing to lose $500 or 100. Now I don't even like to gamble because
I hate gambling. I'm
like, no,
I've gone. We have a casino here. The old historic Bethlehem Steel. Our steel built the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay, cool.
Our steel's been used in some of the most iconic, buildings in all the major cities. But that company folded, died over 10 years ago. This area has all rebuilt since then. But that whole property has been redeveloped, arts and museums, but they put a casino in there. And I've gone there. I'm like, I've never smoked a cigarette, so I don't like that either.
Yep.
I was like, wait, you want me to take my hard-earned money and risk it? And I have friends that are really good at it. Like they're math teachers. So they're like, oh, you're a math teacher. You're fine. I'm watching him. He could play all night. And I don't like that. But
no, I used to think it was fun, but, and even then I limited it, but now, I don't like gambling. I like to do smart things with my money for me. Now, if it gives you pleasure, have fun, do it.
Well, investing is gambling. So I'd rather say technically we are gambling, right? So there we go.
We are.
But in a much more growth oriented potential way.
That's right.
So
I'd rather gamble in real estate.
That's my next step.
Real estate, I like real estate because even if everything falls apart, I have a place to go pitch a tent.
Well, it's great because like my wife and I, she bought this house from, it was one of the last properties in her family's estate. It was her great grandmother's house, a little 1910 house here, but it was already split up into a rental. So we have a renter, and then we have a giant garage where the family's construction company was founded in the early 1900s. So I gutted it, and I have 2 rental tenants storing nice cars in there. So I've got that monetized. I got half the house monetized, and we're looking for a new house now. So it's like, then we'll monetize our half of the house. And then it's like, this is my first real estate portfolio, I guess.
Yeah.
And I control it.
No, so that's great. That's great. I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks really great stuff about
Kiyosaki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good guy. Great book. All of that stuff. But at least if you're gambling, it's something that you are willing to take the risk, and it's something you enjoy, feels a lot better than just something like, oh, I hope it works out.
So here's something else I like, because again, your whole book, Money Nerve, Navigating the Emotions, part of your background when I was digging into it, when I got sent the information, is like, there's little other things part of you. I don't want to skip over them. Like there's a couple backstories, Nepal, Africa, stuff like that. Right. And I'm just setting that because one thing I've learned over the years, when I did the farm kid turned corporate dreams guy and then left it all behind to go serve as a hotshot wildland firefighter out west. So that's why fires in my logo. I don't know if you know the whole backstory, but I spent 2 years serving, and you're from California, so you know what wildfires are.
Oh, I do.
So I got to serve on one of those elite crews for 2 years and beat the living snot out of myself. It grounded me. It taught me a lot. Part of your background is you're very big on integrity. I have that word tattooed on my ribs. Actually, it says duty, respect, and integrity was the hotshot creed. I'm bringing this up because it goes back to risks and the scarcity mindset. I could say the more risks I've taken in my life, the easier it is to embrace them and learn from them. In the very beginning, people see me go race a mountain bike. Or like last year, I tried my first 100-mile mountain biking race, not a road bike, a mountain bike. And they're like, what would make you want to do that? I was like, well, when I lived in Colorado, I used to do 60-mile mountain biking races. So, let's just keep leveling it up. So I've gotten really good at embracing the adrenaline, the risk, the fear, because I get a high on it. But in the beginning, it was much more fearful. Now I've mitigated that, and I've also learned a lot, and I know how to work my way around all that. And I think a lot of that extrapolates back into everything we're talking about here. I'm intrigued to see your point on that, because you obviously have some stuff going on over here, and I'm intrigued about the Africa-Nepal thing, and I wanted to kind of work that in, because me being an adrenaline junkie, I love hearing about international travels and stuff too. So, well,
so a couple things. One of the things when I first started doing my own personal work was, like, I could not talk. If I was sitting in a group of 10 people and somebody asked me to say my name, I would almost like have a heart attack just speaking my name, hoping I got it right.
So you're one of the classic people that were afraid of public speaking.
Public speaking, terrified, everything. So I started looking at what am I afraid of? And I started doing it. I joined Toastmasters. I started doing martial arts and kickboxing. And I started just, what am I scared of? And then I would just go towards it and then go, oh, it didn't kill me. Because my measure was, it's going to kill me. Everything I do is going to kill me. And so I really started just, what am I afraid of? I'm going to go do that. And what happened was, like, I didn't travel initially because only rich people travel. That was my mindset.
I never left this country until I was 18, 19, and I went to Mexico to like Cancun. That's kind of a joke. There's no growth right there.
Well, my first trip was to Greece. I ran a marathon, the original course of the marathon. And for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to travel to great places, I have to do something practical, like run a marathon. So I would always run a marathon or a half marathon when I went to India and different places.
I like how you think.
Yeah, man, you got to
All
like
right.
exercise. It felt practical. I was getting 2 for 1. And when I went to Africa, what was amazing to me was these people were making $100 a year average income. Tanzania, super happy people. And I couldn't process this. I'm like, you don't have a Mercedes or a Lexus or a Porsche. You don't have DVDs. You don't have internet. How can you be
Luckily,
so
some of these
happy?
areas have running water. I mean,
Right. I
right?
mean, we had running water for about 3 hours a day,
Well,
and no electricity after like 5 o'clock. And they were happy. And I kept going, no, 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 you're your accomplishments. You are your accomplishments. How can this? And it was a real mind, um,
awakening.
mind awakening. And it just, I kept having to process it. And I realized it's not about, like, money's great. I love money. I enjoy what it does, but it's not my driving force. I'm about, like, I'd rather stay in integrity than make an extra buck. I'd rather have an amazing experience than be able to screw somebody over and like get ahead.
I got to go to Africa like 2, 3 years ago. My now wife, but only because she's kind of like what you're talking about. Like we're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year here, but
Right.
if there's no debt, your cash flow is pretty nice. And we don't have kids, so it's like okay,
Right.
we're not terrible. Now she's like, well, I could, because she has her own veterinary business with a co-founder. She's like, okay, well, I could keep taking online creds because they have to do CEU to continue their doctorates.
That's right.
Or she found, she's a horse doctor. She found this organization that does these travel CEU course programs. So they were hosting one down in Johannesburg. So it's like,
Nice.
okay, South Africa, great, less disease risk, stuff like that. A whole lot of flying to get there.
Yeah, it's a long way.
So we said, great, let's turn it into a 2-week trip. 1 week for fun. And then at the end of the trip, it's all business. You can go study. The cool thing was they hosted it at a safari. So every morning at sunrise and at sunset, we would go on safaris. And then she'd be in classes all day. And then I got to go do whatever I wanted. So actually,
Nice.
I was running my business from Africa. It was crazy.
It's perfect.
But to your point, I was like, okay, well, you're on a little safari property. Like there's barely any internet. Yes, they did have running water there, but traveling around and seeing the massive differences of income, especially when we went to Cape Town. Cape
Right.
Town, there's an area of Cape Town, cliff something. It's on cliffs. A lot of rich people living there. And I was like, wow. And then you go and drive north out of Cape Town and you see these shanties and what looks like concrete portable toilets, but they're not. It's just a wall of them. And that's where they go and use the facilities. Like, my gosh. But to your point, you see people walking down the street carrying a basket on their head. They're completely smiling. They're talking to each other like happy people. So
they're happy people.
Yeah.
And I think it is important to travel and get perspective. I was in Zimbabwe a couple of years ago. I was working at a rhino sanctuary, and we got to work with the local community. And there were some of the people that were volunteers were younger. And we got to spend a day at a village, plowing the field with a cow, and we got to milk it and drink it. And people were like, "Oh, this is so great!" And the cow looked like it hadn't eaten in like 2 weeks. The plastic bottle that we were putting the milk in had not ever been washed. And I said to the younger, to the kids, look, we get to choose whether or not we're going to plow the field today and whether we're going to milk the cow. But they wake up every day and it's not a choice. This is their life. And don't feel bad about your privilege, but use it to like do better things. Like you have an advantage and know you have the advantage. You don't have to feel guilty about it, but then pay it forward.
Right. I love that. Yeah. It's interesting because, so we got to stay in luckily my wife, somebody she went to school with was from a very successful family. Like they own property all over the world. Yeah. And this is why we went to Africa, because they're like, hey, for your fun week, we have a place in that cliff, whatever area of Cape Town.
Nice.
And it was very beautiful. I was like, oh, it's just like, we had a free place to stay. So we had to save up and pay for the airfare and the educational courses and all that for her. But we kind of turned it into a business/fun trip. But okay, we had a free place to stay for the first week. So more reason to justify a trip like this and make it work.
Absolutely.
But they had, I don't know, a house person, like somebody looking after the house. They're cleaning it. They're coming and doing laundry. Like we were there during a drought. and she wanted to do our laundry every day.
Right.
And I was like, one, I can cook for myself. I can clean up after myself. Like, I'm good. I mean, she's like, no,
Right.
they pay me to do this. And she loved her profession. She actually said,
Right.
they pay me better than most people in this profession.
Yeah.
She's got other clients. She takes care of all that family's properties. And they had just got an espresso machine. This is what I loved about her. She's like, could you help me? She saw me using it because I knew I'm a caffeine nut. And
Right.
she said, could you show me that? And I said, yeah, sure. Why? And she's like, oh my God, I would love to have that new skill set so when this family comes back, later in the year, because they're only there like once a year, she's like, this is one more thing that I can give back to them, with our business relationship. And I was like, huh, I never forgot it. I was like, so simple, so effective. And she valued her business relationship. She wanted to learn a new skill and give back. It's not more than just cleaning and laundry. But she said, she's like, she can give so much back to her family thanks to that profession too. And it was like, oh, okay. Learning to use an espresso machine. She was so excited.
Yeah. Well, I think that's key right there is gratitude. I think in this country, in the US, I don't know that we have enough gratitude sometimes.
I agree with that.
They're like, just to be able to appreciate the coffee machine, I'm thinking she's thinking, hey, I get a free coffee every day. No, she's thinking this is something I can do to be of service. Right. And then grateful for the opportunity. And I think that's what I experience when I go to other countries, especially developing countries, is the gratitude to be alive, to even have the opportunity for something better, even just the dream or the hope. And here we're like, wow, they didn't put my goat's milk in my coffee, or it was supposed to be fluffed with air. How dare they?
Yeah.
Right? We're outraged.
You call that a frothing? Like, whatever.
Outrage. I won't pay for this.
I mean, we can laugh, but you are so true. I've seen that. I've gone in these little, like, I'll use the word, these little douchey coffee cafes where they come across a little snobbish, and I'm like, it's a cup of coffee.
It's a cup of coffee.
Okay, great. You add a nice little flair on there and stuff. Like when people are like complaining because they got it wrong, and I'm like, maybe simplify your coffee. Like I don't do any of that crap. I mean, I might get a latte once in a while, but I'm anti-sugar, so there's no this, that, and the other thing, drizzle, blah 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 blah. Like you want to look at a definition of obesity in America? There's an example. But guys, like, why don't you just try having a black cup of coffee? Like,
simple.
There's less stuff to go wrong.
Absolutely. And I mean, like talking about those simple things, this is something that happened to me a year ago. I mean, I'm sort of outing myself, but I was at a conference, at a workshop about social justice, equality, and privilege. And I'm fortunate enough that I have a housekeeper, because that's one of the things that I like having is clean sheets and all that stuff. And I'm sitting at the workshop and I noticed that my socks are mismatched.
Okay.
Now, I always think people that have mismatched socks are really cool, but I got a
friend of mine who does it on purpose. So.
Right? A lot of people do it, but I'm an accountant, so I'm not going to take that risk. And so
live on the edge, Bob.
Living on the edge. Now, mind you, one sock was dark gray and the other one was mildly dark. So nobody but me knew that my socks were mismatched. For about 4 seconds, I was outraged, right, that my housekeeper would mismatch my socks, until I realized, what an asshole.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I'm being such a dick right now, aren't I? Yeah,
what a dick. I have a really good life, and I could be a little more grateful. And hey, you wanted to wear mismatched socks, and now you are, right? She gave me my opportunity.
I'll out myself with you then. I've never had we don't have a housekeeper, but when I met my wife, we decided to move in together before we got married, and we don't have a ton of square footage, but we both agreed that we hate cleaning the bathroom. Right. And I love cooking. I do all the cooking. I keep after the kitchen. I'm like, you know what? The two most heavily used parts of the house are, the bathroom and the kitchen. And I was building my business and income was getting better. And I was like, well, why don't we hire somebody just to come in and clean the house once in a while? Like we still clean, but so to this day, it's just once a month. I have a friend, they come every week. My brother-in-law every week. So he's the same person. And she's amazing. Her and her cousin, and but I remember when I first started doing it, because I'm a little OCD, I would have noticed the sock thing. Totally would have noticed it. Now we do our own laundry, but I came in and I'm like, the stuff wasn't put back to where it was. And I was
Properly.
like, it drove me nuts. Like my wife's like, are you serious right now? She's like, you have somebody cleaning your house and you're pissed because they didn't put the stuff back to where it belongs. I was like, well, how do you forget that? She's like, well, not everybody has a photographic memory. This turned into a fight. And I was just like, she's like, you're being a jackass. And I said, you're probably right.
Right.
And then,
But
and then,
still.
like, and then 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I'm such an asshole. I've worked hard enough to be able to hire somebody to make my wife happy and make sure we have a clean house once a month beyond our normal cleaning. The fact that I've actually had the privilege to make that money, and then be able to employ and give somebody else an income. Who cares if the stuff's not perfectly back in the same exact place? So you just walk over and move it. Like,
right.
I was like, dude, get over your shit. Like, what is wrong with me? I couldn't believe it. So I agree with you.
It's so easy to get in that mindset, which is why I like to take a lot of time to pause and wait, let me just stop. Oh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. That's, you know, I mean, for me, that's really how I start my day. I'm humbled and grateful because there's so much that I have. And I think for most of us, when I start doing this work with people in workshops, is people don't stop and actually appreciate what they actually have. Oh, I'm actually really happy. They're all trying to get other things that's going to make them happy instead of saying, oh my God, I've got a lot of stuff right here. This is pretty amazing.
You know, I'm intrigued on this point because gratitude, I remember 2 years ago, I finally downloaded a gratitude app to my phone. And I had it set an alarm in the morning for that exact reason. Because I was still going through a lot of mindset shift work. And a great coach of mine said, Scott, gratitude, pausing, as you just said. And again, I mean, I'm guessing this is a big fundamental of your book too, because obviously there's so much emotion tied there. Like if you could, classic, all your quote, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay. Like, okay, pause. But how hard is it right now for us to pause? Everything's so emotionally charged, right? And I'm being real, like right here, right now, we're recording this. I'll timestamp it. We're recording this in June 6th. Today is the anniversary of D-Day 1944. That's a whole other level of emotional charge stuff that triggered a world war. But like, how much stuff could we solve by pausing?
Well, I think we could solve a lot because then if we can take the time to pause, then we can actually respond instead of react. I think right now, so many people are in reaction that the minute, instead of like stopping, thinking about it, feeling into it, and then actually being honest about what is our reaction. What is our response? Because I do think that right now people are just reacting. And the more we can slow it down a little bit and actually hear each other or hear what we're saying about ourselves, the demands we're making on our professional and financial goals, the demands we're making on our family, in our relationships. And if we could actually slow it down and actually give some space to actually let it in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share another one for you. You'll appreciate this. So about pausing. Yeah. I got a little pissed off a couple of weeks ago because I've worked very hard to where I am, and there's still a lot more to grow.
Right.
And I post once in a while at this big garage behind my house. I've been gutting it for 5 years. I've done all the work myself. I've been covered in like 30-year-old dust. It's been in my nose. I mean, I've done all the demo work. I can't find the original photos from the very, very first time. You couldn't even walk into this building. There's 3,000 square feet. You couldn't even, there was packed full of old construction crap everywhere. So nowadays you walk in there, it's wide open. I've got our old flat screen out there. I got a little CrossFit gym space. I have nice cars being stored. People they're paying to rent there. I've been painting the cinder block. I've been doing everything. It's total man zone.
Yeah.
And I posted a photo a couple weeks ago, and a fellow podcasting colleague commented, said, must be nice to be rich. And man, that struck me, and I had to bite my tongue, and it was a social media post, and I ignored it.
Right.
And then I waited about an hour, and I'm still a little annoyed by that. And I'm like, okay, I busted my ass on this place for 5 years. I spend my personal money. I don't take it out of my wife and I's account. I spend for everything. I mean, dude, then I paused and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? What if he's not what if something's not going well with him right now?
Yeah.
Maybe that's my opportunity to reach out to him and say, hey man, I saw you put a comment. Don't even bring that up. Just say, hey man, how you doing?
Right.
Like, is everything all right? Because I realized, like, first I'm getting pissed because somebody's trying to call me rich. I'm like, yeah, I'm rich in life and
Right.
enjoyment and happiness, because something as simple as an old 1950 built garage makes me happy. Like,
Absolutely.
right? Like, yeah,
Right.
I do feel rich, but there's more to life, and there's more to the definition of rich than financial wealth. And that's what you're talking about with Africa. That's what you're talking about with pausing. And anyway, I just want to share that with you, because from your feedback, because you're the guy with money nerve, but it's like, man, he struck my nerve.
Yeah.
And I had to really pause and think about what he's going through.
Well, it's so interesting that was the nerve, because one of the things that I find when I do live workshops with people is everybody, I'll say, who wants to be rich? Me. I want to be rich. Cool. 10 minutes later, what do you think of rich people? Rich people suck. They're assholes. They're jerks.
Yep.
People like them have no heart. Wait, and you want to be them, right? And so already we're not in alignment, because we're wanting to be the thing we hate or that we have judgment about, instead of actually, oh, some people that are rich worked really hard and they put blood, sweat, and tears into it. And they didn't just get it. They're easy. And I think when people make a quick judgment to say you're rich, they miss you as the individual, and they lump you in a group, which is what's going on right now in a lot of different levels.
Oh, yeah.
of saying, oh, this is who you are, without actually seeing the person.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's interesting, because my brother-in-law, they now run the construction company that was founded in our old garage a long time ago.
Okay.
So I have the grandfather, great grandfather, and his brother's signatures are scribed into the concrete in one of the windowsills.
Nice.
So I made sure that's always seen. I didn't want to cover it up. And I found an old hand-painted Surface Construction's the name of the business, sign from who knows when. It was probably, they used to paint their own wooden signs and put them at job sites. Now they have a sign company doing that, right? Like, yeah. Him and his cousin now run the company. They just built their first ever 12-story commercial, like, glass skyscraper. 12 stories. But here in Allentown, a year or so ago, like, they've never done something like this before. They use Teslas for their company cars for him and his cousin. But, like, dude, this was founded in my dirty old garage.
Right.
When back in the day, they used to just remodel churches and build fire departments. Like, they started very simplistically, but the new generation has taken another level. So, like, yes, if you look at them now, some people might judge that. But it's like, that's why I'm trying to honor the history, because I've married into this. I have nothing to do with it. And they're definitely financially more successful than I am. But I'm like, I find these old pieces of the history, and it actually excites me, because I'm like, you see that? That's some hard freaking work, dude. This family business has been around since before 1950 or 1932 or whenever it was founded, and it's still going, and it's more successful than it's ever been. Like, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I think, I've seen that cartoon of an iceberg, and you only see the tip of it, and we make the judgment on the tip of the iceberg and not the 90% of it that's under the water. Like, we miss all the hard work. We miss the sacrifices. We miss, like, all that went into it. And we look at it and go, wow, they have life so easy.
You see, that's a full circle thing too. Like, everybody wants success today.
Right.
And let me pause on that, by the way. I know we started late, so are you still good for a few minutes?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's the other piece of this, right? It's like,
that's right.
Everybody forgets that, okay, cool. Yeah, they worked their asses off to get there. So give them that respect. But also, earlier in the game, people want success tomorrow, right? As you say, your conferences, they don't like the rich, but they want to be rich. Like, so
that's right.
But then there's those people, like, once you tell me you got to put in the work, what's the percentage of people who don't put the work?
Well, a lot.
Right?
A lot. I would say it's probably 80, 85%. Right. I think it's a pretty high amount.
Because business and entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's not easy. Supposed to be easy. But it's not sexy.
Yeah. It's work. And that, talking about bringing back Nepal in, one of the things that I am big on is baby steps. You're not going to get there. We don't have to get there today. We don't have to get everything done today.
Yeah.
Do it in baby steps. Like, let's just do this a little bit, and then let's renegotiate, and then take a little bit more. And then it's not so overwhelming and we can still reach our goals. But
So
we
was
don't.
was that kind of like your understatement of, or the underlying principles of you preparing to go to Nepal and hike to the Everest Base Camp? Like, 'cause that's the other thing I
Well,
tell people all the time, like, I'm a big hiker. I hiked 14ers in Colorado, and I'm like,
oh, I love the 14ers in Colorado.
I was like, dude, you can't just show up and go hike a 14er.
No, no. Well, I'll tell you what happened was when I went to Nepal the second time, my group of friends that I brought with me, the first day, it's an intense hike into the national park. And after the end of the first day, everybody said, let's quit. And I'm like, I just spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
You guys just spent a lot of money. We're not quitting. They're like, this is freaking hard.
That's
like,
the point.
This is hard. So, and I was like, what am I going to do here? And I said, I'll tell you what, the only thing I know to do is let's negotiate and let's hike for an hour and then decide if we're going to hike another hour. And so what we ended up doing was for the first 5 days is we would time it. And every hour I would stop and ask everybody if we were going to hike another hour. And then everybody go, yeah, I could do one more hour. And we stopped.
Were you even the expedition leader, or you were just
I was sort of like, I had been before. And so
okay.
I wasn't the expedition leader. We had our beautiful Sherpa that took care of us, but I had done it before, and I'd been to Kilimanjaro, and I had hiked some other stuff. So, but I just knew I wasn't going to throw away like $10,000. Just go
and
get
again,
a massage.
You're in this amazing, unique place in the world. It's like, why would you want to leave so soon?
Yeah.
You haven't really embraced everything that it has to offer yet.
No, absolutely. And this is a hard place to live, and these people are happy, and it is hard. And
Sherpas,
so
man, there's some strong people.
They are freaking strong, running around barefooted, smoking a cigarette, 20 cases of beer on their head, smiling.
Like superhumans. Superhumans.
It's incredible. But yeah, so that was the thing I really learned there was if you take it in baby steps, everybody in this country, I think a lot of people in this country want to get from A to Z without doing all the little steps in between instead of going from A to B. Like I want there now. And I think we need to learn delayed gratification instead of this instant gratification, that I have to be satisfied in this moment. It's actually more satisfying when there's a bit of a delay because then I get to savor it.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point, right? So again, this whole point of today's podcast was around the emotion around money, the positive, the negatives, the ebb, the flow. And actually, I didn't even do a screen sharing on the show, but I love the simplicity of your site. When people go, I mean, unless you guys change it later, but themoneynerve.com, people, right there, you deserve a healthy relationship with your money. And most importantly, there, you've earned it. Like, that's the other piece. It's like, we're working hard to accomplish things in life.
Yeah.
So part of this is rewarding yourself. Maybe it is travel to remote parts of the planet.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just simply to have the financial freedom to not live stressed, right? To alleviate that stress where you're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
I could tell you, if I went back years ago, that is something that I would have wished I would have freed myself sooner, right? Getting rid of that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, because man, that's not a good way to live. And here's the best part. I've lived that way. So you too, people hearing this, watching this right now, you too can get informed, get educated to learn to get beyond that. You know, not depend on the government teat, as I like to say, or
that's right.
You know, all of these variables that are affecting us right now.
That's right. And listen, I was in incredible amounts of debt, you know, because I was, hey man, you give me a couple $10,000 credit cards and another one, that's all free money. And I didn't have the discipline, but I spent the time and energy and worked my way out of it. So like people will say, well, I can't get out of it. My situation's bad. You can. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but if you're willing to put in the work, the rewards are amazing, and you don't have to live this check to check mentality.
And unfortunately, I mean, do you actually have any percentages on that? Is there any current studies on what the percentage of our country, for example, is the check to check life?
No, I'm, you know, I mean, based on my clients, I would say it's probably about 75%.
Okay. I mean,
and I think actually statistically, I think it's even higher.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that statistically, I think it's something like 8 out of 10.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I mean, it's a pretty high percent.
So I shared a post to my personal Instagram, which is synced to my personal Facebook feed, just like Live the Fuel is synced to Live the Fuel. But I posted a photo. I found 4 photos of my old cars when I was in high school and then getting into my early 20s. And I just made a collage and I posted it. And I decided to take the position on what I've learned about automotive debt. And like, even back then, some of those cars, I overstretched myself. And these weren't like amazing high-end fancy cars or anything. It's just, hey, it was like, well, they were like a Chevy Beretta GT or something like that. But I've learned, though, since then, I've only bought one brand new car in my life, and that was after firefighting. And I never live with regrets, but I say, I worked hard, I deserve it, but I didn't buy it outright. I financed it. So then I had this payment heading over my head. Yeah. And I didn't expect that post to polarize so much. Like, next thing you know, there's people commenting. This one person's going back and forth with my brother. And I'm like, because my brother's backing me up on this, because he's learned this over the years too, about how we'd rather just own our vehicles and own something used. And that person's justifying how, well, your repairs and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I haven't commented yet, because I'm like, if I did comment, I'm going to say, listen, guys, you have the right to choose what you want to do. I'm just sharing with you with the lessons I've learned. And I know a lot of very successful multimillionaires who don't care if they have a brand new car. Right. It's a means for transportation, because they're making their money work for themselves in other areas of their life. And that's right. That's why they're multimillionaires.
Exactly. It's, we get into this comfort. I mean, I remember when I used to drive a pickup truck. I'm from Tennessee originally, so I was so happy to have my pickup truck. And they were like, you can't drive a pickup truck. You're a CPA in LA. It's embarrassing.
Well, LA, yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I finally got a nice car and everybody treated me different, which was annoying. But I got used to, I had to have a new car every year because that was the image. And, the car companies would be, hey, we're going to give you a new car. You don't have to do anything. Well, okay, that's sort of nice. But but more recently, I'm like, you know what? I know I've sort of gotten used to it, but I really liked it when I didn't pay for a car and having to trade it in. And so I'm actually, this car, when the lease finishes, I'm actually buying it and I'm just keeping it because
and my brother-in-law just did the same thing. They traded their lease in, and I just found out from my wife, they went and bought outright, like a used Land Rover. Right. So they still wanted a decent vehicle. So they got rid of, he had a really nice sports car. He's like, I never drive it. He sold it, traded it in. They got rid of the lease. So they're no longer, they leased the company cars for the company. Right. Yeah. That's different. So, and I have a client who does the same. And it's funny because my other client, he moved from LA this past year. For now he's in Virginia. They're still shopping around for a house, but he got tired of LA. Yeah, he was the trainer to the stars. Like, he was one of the top fitness gurus for years out there for you guys. Yeah. And he just he went and bought a pickup truck. He's got a vet, but he's like, dude, I grew up outside the swamps of Louisiana. His family was in farming. He grew up, poor. His parents are teachers. So he and I vibe a lot because he's a lot older than I am, but we connect. And it's cool because he's like, dude, I just want to go drive a pickup truck.
You mean my pickup truck?
Yeah. But in LA, when he first moved to LA, he said he would actually, he bought a motorcycle and would drive to his clients to go train them on his motorcycle. Right. Just to try and beat LA traffic.
Right.
And then he had an old pickup truck back then too. So he's got a crazy backstory like you guys. He's traveled around. I mean, he beat cancer. He had a nice Corvette after he got very successful at personal training, and then had to sell it to pay for cancer, right? Go back to, but he's a big guy, doesn't like debt, cash in the bank, smart with his money. But he said the same thing. He's like, even all that, he's like, you can't always plan for cancer and the cost of medical bills. So it's interesting. And how many of us could say that right now, listening to this podcast right now, say, if I got hit with cancer tomorrow, I could pay all those medical bills.
Yeah. If I got hit with a pandemic, do I have money in the bank? Right? Like, what could happen? Yeah. There's all kinds of things.
I luckily had decent insurance last year, but I collapsed a lung last year. I'm never in the hospital, but I accidentally collapsed a lung. Next thing you know, I'm getting lung surgery. And luckily, out of pocket over the next 90 days of billing and blah, blah, blah. And don't get me going about the medical industry. Yeah. I think I ended up paying like $5-6 grand out of pocket.
That's not bad.
Years ago, I would not have been able to afford those bills. They would have freaked me out. Right. Then I finally logged in and found like the full statement.
Oh.
How much do you think a collapsed lung goes for?
I'll say 250,000.
8 days in the hospital, maybe in LA.
Okay.
But I think it was like $160,000.
Oh, wow. That's still.
And I'm still like, I was like, what? So
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't see that statement while I was already in there, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, like, it's crazy. So
It's crazy.
I've been having fun with you today. I mean, I wish I could keep going all afternoon with you, but I do have to move on to another show. But I was like, this is what we're all talking about. It's like that healthy relationship with money. Stop living under debt. Working with people like you to get the biggest thing here is education.
Education.
This is why I love podcasting. Like, I get to learn stuff and geek out with people like you, but also we're passing the knowledge on.
Absolutely.
And I think, and as I bring this to the show, I have my guest co-host help close the show out with some final words, or as it's morphed into, it's more like a legacy message. It's like, why write the book? Why do all these conferences? Why do all the training you're doing? And you shared with us today already, like your backstory, having debt, making those mistakes. But if you would bring the show to a close, like, what were some final statements you'd like to leave behind for the audience?
Well, I think two things come to mind. Stay in integrity. Like that's huge for me, is stay in integrity. And my favorite quote from Gandhi is, be the change you want to see in the world. And that's, for me, is don't talk about, don't try to present, just go out and model the life that you want to live, and other people will follow, because they're going to say they're doing something right. I want to know what they're doing.
Well, and I love your reemphasis on the importance of integrity. Thank you. It's not just a fun tattoo on my ribs. It means a lot to me. And
it's real. It's what you do when nobody's looking. It's what you do when nobody's looking.
And again, in the long run, what is the legacy that we're leaving behind on this planet? I mean, I don't think a lot of people think about that. They're too focused in the now and not thinking about, what could I be doing years from now by creating the financial freedom, by removing the debt, having more resources. That's my goal. I want to be able to give back more, do more with my foundation. Yeah. Right. So I need to get this game dialed in so I can give more. So.
Absolutely. Because I mean, I will say this, I have a belief that everybody deep down wants to make an impact, wants to make a difference, wants to know that they matter, and that when they leave this earth, that people miss them. Like that, wow.
Yeah. Like that person left a positive.
They left a positive footprint.
I like that. Well said. Listen, hang tight. I want to probably goodbye off the air.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging with us live here on Facebook anyway on a Saturday. And also, obviously, to the regular podcasting YouTube world, actually for YouTube as well. I'll do one more screen share again. Again, guys, it's The Money Nerve. He's been on Amazon for a while. There's the book. So I'm going to make sure I add this to my Amazon influencer page. So a reminder, guys, when you go to livethefuel.com and you click on the Amazon banner, it takes you to my influencer page. And I have a whole section just on the book recommendations for all of our guest co-hosts who put out awesome books. So, and again, it's simple, dude. It's like less than $13 right now on Amazon Prime. Come on. That's to get a little more educated, no brainer. So again, ladies and gentlemen, that's The Money Nerve. That's Bob Wheeler. Remember, we're here to fuel your health, your business, and your lifestyle. This is a big component of that. Start mastering that money game. Get over that money nerve. Let's figure it out. Let's get educated. Let's pass that knowledge on to others. So again, thanks for tuning in. And remember, you too can live the fuel. We'll talk to you guys again soon.